motion design and visual effects. So if you like any of those things, you're in the right place. Let's see. Oh, yes. Let's welcome our new board members. I believe Ching is the only one that's here tonight. You can stand up, Ching? Or just wave. Sure. But yeah, we are hopefully going to be doing a lot more awesome stuff because 4 new board members is twice as many as we've had before. So 8 board members, twice as much stuff. That's how it works. Next slide. Oh, upcoming events. Scream it off screen if you've never been. Alicia and I finally went last month. It is wild. It is a room of 400 people with maybe too many drinks, shouting, and having a good old time. So if you got the winter blues, that is the place to take it out. And then I/O Fest is coming back. So check that out in June. You got a lot of time to get really excited about it.
Tickets are on sale now?
Yeah, that's why it's up there. Tickets are on sale now. Calls for submission. Mo Stop Mo. I'm going to point out this one first. Mo Stop Mo. That's what we're here to talk about tonight with David. That's him over there. That is a stop motion film festival that David will tell you a lot more about. But submissions are open now, and they will be open until March 25th, which is, I don't know, it's like 6 weeks. So if you don't have a submission ready, finish it in the next 6 weeks. Boom, easy. And then, what was the other?
McKnight Artist Fellowship.
Yes, the McKnight Artist Fellowship. This is for, they call them mid-career artists. And, oh, another board member just walked in. Hi, Danny. Mid-career artists are artists that have a bit of an established thing going on, and they want to keep it going. So if you consider yourself to be one of those types of artists, check that out. Otherwise, if you're an early stage career artist, there is another, the Jerome Foundation, which is not on the slide, but you should check that out because I notice a lot of younger faces out there. Next slide. We're on Instagram. Can I get a what for Instagram? Ooh, I've been gone for like 4 months, so you guys, you gotta forgive me for not being at the top of my game here. In Discord. Cool. Yes. We have like 80 members on our Discord now. So, you know, it's pretty active. I'm on there at least once a week. So if you want to hear me say a new job posting that I saw somewhere once a week, then that's the place to go. Because I'm not going to call you. Okay, finally, this is what we're here for tonight, folks. Stop motion beyond the screen with David Rocco Facchini. Don't come up yet. So before that, did we have any show and tells? Did anybody want to show off something that they found inspiring or something they've been working on? Okay, let's give it up for David. And
I'm going to borrow that mic. Thank you. Yeah, it's all gone. Does this sound okay? Can you hear me? Yeah. You never close your eyes. There's my stuff. You want to go this way? Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out. I'm really excited to be here. My name is David Rocco Facchini, and I am the festival director for Mo Stop Mo, which is going to be our very first stop motion film festival based in Oakland, California. But Mo Stop Mo is also more than that. It is a production pipeline experience for people who want to get into the industry, maybe parallel or in lieu of a formal education system. So we are finishing our first short that we have been working on for the last year, and along the way we have been working with students and industry professionals to finish this short. It's an interesting journey of how Mo Stop Mo started and where it is today, and that's kind of what I'm here to talk about. When I first went to film school, I loved sets and props, and that's still what I do. I have that kind of a background, but I initially went to film school for film, and I discovered stop motion, and that's when my passion started, but that passion was kind of put on hiatus, because in Chicago, for me, there wasn't necessarily that opportunity of going from school to getting a job in that industry. So I started exploring other things, and the big thing that ties everything together that I have done is storytelling. So whether it was in animation, whether it was in film, or when I graduated, when there was not as much opportunity in stop motion, I started exploring other storytelling venues such as theater. I directed live comedy in Chicago for many years, worked at Second City directing comedy, and when I moved to the Bay Area about a few years ago, I realized that I'm in an area where stop motion was once this very powerful force, and the film that I had made many years prior in Chicago, which didn't necessarily get a lot of traction, all of a sudden became this thing that was a little bit of my calling card. So my passion and energy for stop motion kind of got rekindled. So once in the Bay Area, I was able to really make connections in a community, and I'm finding, especially coming from Chicago and kind of visiting in Minneapolis and just going to different places, what I'm finding is there's a lot of wonderfully talented artists, but they're not necessarily connected. And as we start forming our little independent studios just to get our projects off the ground and getting what we need to get our name out there, I'm realizing if we could plug this person in here with this person in here, we could start creating more opportunities within our communities. So Mo Stop Mo kind of was started that way. It was just kind of a hashtag that started to kind of just say, okay, let's get more stop motion out there. And that also has been facilitating more storytelling. So with Mo Stop Mo, then we started making a production short, and now we are embarking on this festival. In terms of one other side note, I am a big storyteller, and regardless of what medium I use to tell a story, whether it's on stage or screen or beyond, I am just a big advocate in storytelling. So a little bit of my background, I've worked at the Second City in Chicago, which has been a comedy platform from anyone from like John Belushi to A.D. Bryant, Tina Fey, Stephen Colbert. They've all gone through that institution. So I got a good storytelling background for live performances, comedy. I worked for the Department of Health and Human Services doing storytelling. When I went to the Bay Area, I worked as a part of a production called The Headlands Gamble, which is like, if you've ever seen the movie The Game with Michael Douglas, it's kind of an interactive storytelling thing. And I was an actor slash producer on something like that, where it would be a weekend-long adventure that would take place all throughout the Bay Area. And we would usher people around and get, make sure they're handing off to the next person, and they'd have to get in this car and find this clue. So I'm all about innovation and storytelling. And I think one of the things that has always brought me back to stop motion is that stop motion is every form of art that has ever existed in one presentation. It's painting, sculpting, storytelling, lighting, set design, character design. It's all there. And for me, I love it a lot because the hand of the artist is in there, and it's not like necessarily a standoffish thing. Sometimes it's more welcome. The thing that I really got turned on into stop motion initially was watching Wallace and Gromit and those little thumbprints that you would see on Wallace. Now they do it digitally. And it kind of speaks to how much stop motion is this art form that we still want to see the artist's hand. And as we are becoming more sophisticated viewers, what I think we are yearning for is more of that artist hand. We see animation now becoming a little bit more experimental, using different techniques, just like the success of Spider-Verse, for example, shot on 2s rather than 1s, using different filters to kind of create different textures and techniques. People are looking towards that, and the computer animation that was mind-blowing at one point is starting to become, okay, you've done that, so where's your story? Again, boiling it down to story. So bringing that back, the first short that Most Stop-Mo is producing is a clay animated short. It's going to time in with credits and everything around 6 minutes. And it is something that has been a good learning tool for people and part of the process because it's not so invasive. Clay is a pretty friendly, non-toxic substance to work with. If you get deeper and deeper into stop motion, you could definitely go down those roads of where you start getting into, you better have a good filtration system and HEPA filters, all this kind of stuff. But this is a good start for us, and it was a good learning tool. I'm going to show you just a little bit of our most recent clip, and I could just slide it over to here, right? So what I'm just going to do is just show you up until the first minute and 30 seconds. Is that okay? Is that too long? Yeah, we'll find out, right? So let's see, how can I slide that over? Can't do that. Am I just sliding it to the left or to the right?
To the right.
Is there a way I can see it myself on that monitor?
It's actually on this big one next to
Okay, so can I mirror this then?
Yes.
All right, I'm just gonna do that. No, that's fine.
There we go.
Let me
Can
just,
you see it now?
no. I'm just gonna see if I can mirror displays. Right here? Okay, let me see if this will work. All right, this should be fine. Okay, so what I'm just gonna show you guys is like the first minute and a half of our short. And it is called The Cookie Cutter. I'm gonna just offer it without explanation because I don't wanna give anything away. I don't even think you'll get it from the first minute and a half. All right, here we go. Play. Is the sound off? Okay. I think it's not. Yeah, it's not synced up. So we're going to listen to this without the sound. And what I'll say is we're using a variety of techniques to tell our story. We are using wire armature puppets. We are using down shooters to create certain aspects. A lot of fabricated sets and props are in our short. And the whole idea is to show that even though you're using a very simple, tried and true technique, depending on how you're telling your story and what kind of acting you're getting out of your characters, story is the essential driving force. We have a great team of animators, Zaldi Dingle, Fu Yang, Nia Zani. By the way, that's going to be an inserted shot. They all worked really hard to make this look amazing, and this alone I love, this little character who is definitely just trying to get in shape here. There's a knock at the door here, by the way, that distracts our poor character here. So I'm just going to leave it right there. So there's a little sneak peek of what we are doing with that. Thank you. Thank you. So when we started this process about a year ago, we were definitely a part of do I have to change the screenshot on this, or you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna put our festival site up there. That helps. Great. Enter. When we first started this production about a year ago, it was a different environment, and we were given a story in conjunction with a university saying, we're not necessarily going to give you an official space or any sort of budget, but if you can piece together what you can in the space that we are unofficially giving you, we want you in exchange to produce this story. The story we got wasn't necessarily our favorite story, but that is a very professional experience that everyone's going to have. So what we did was took it, it was like, fine, what are we going to do with this? And there was back and forth of how we were going to do it. And I knew the talent that existed within our resources. And if you could see set, props, animation, we wanted to at least showcase the skills of the animators who are working on it. That's the whole point, is get us out into the public, make sure we're connected and making job opportunities and networking opportunities. So during the course of this process, there were pluses and minuses. There were people who were rallying for the project, the people who couldn't stay with the project, but just keeping the project moving forward was my primary focus, and sticking with it and making sure that we were hitting our benchmarks. We had to switch our studio, which we are now located in Oakland in my studio space at a place called FM Gallery, and that is where we are going to finish our shots right now. Our team is working in Oakland, finishing those last shots. It's also the place that is going to be the home base for our festival, because the one thing that I love about this story is we have some beautiful sets. There's a bathroom set, there's an exterior set, and it's all basically finishing its production in about a 10 by 10 studio. But we're going to take that stuff and we're going to put it in a gallery setting in the front of the house of my studio space, and it's going to be the art of Mo Stop Mo. So people are going to have a first chance opportunity to see scale and texture and sets and props, because something that might have been a fleeting glance in a short that you would see, you could actually get to see it. And my hope is that we're drawing attention from like-minded individuals in the animation community, or people who are aspiring to be animators, to come to our festival, to see this art, and then to kind of see if we could drive that passion. Because what I will say, in my experience of trying to build this community in the Bay Area, is you find the people who are passionate about it and the people who will kind of be along and just like, okay, I'll see what it's like. And you can't substitute passion. And whether it's directing comedy on stage or directing a short animated film, you are going to want to work with people who have passion. And I am fortunate enough to have a core team that is very passionate. So this festival is hoping to draw more people who are passionate about this industry. And we have been able to reach out to some great industry professionals to help this happen. Like I was saying before, you know, this is about building community, and I'm building upon the community that I have come from. So I went to Columbia in Chicago for film, and then went to animation and really kind of got into stop motion. And that's where I met Mike Owens and Wendy Owens, became very good friends. We actually started cobbling together an idea that hopefully we'll be able to work on one day professionally. It's going to happen regardless, called Monkey and Car. We've been working on it for many, many years, along with our good friend in Chicago, Greg Scheer. And I've been able to work with Mike on different projects and then get introduced through Mike and Wendy to different people and vice versa. So I'm happy to say that WOMO Studios with Mike and Wendy are going to be two of the jurors on our festival. I could just, I mean, as long as the website's up, there we go. So again, if you're not familiar with Mike, I think he's vice. What are you with Nice Moves? So he's vice president for Nice Moves. If you don't know him, well, okay. Yeah. You gotta do better. Yeah, you gotta do better. So Mike is not only Emmy Award-winning director for Danger and Eggs on Amazon, but he is also just recently worked, WOMO Studio has just recently worked on Hair Love, which garnered an Oscar. Yes, yeah, let's give it up for Mike. And also, Wendy is wonderfully talented in so many different storytelling venues. She's done a lot of stuff for the Science Museum of Minnesota, but I mean, if you're gonna do animation drops, you know, back in the day, Animaniacs and Hysteria, Space Jam. So really excited to have her perspective on a lot of this stuff. And they, both Mike and Wendy through WOMO are developing some really great IPs that are hopefully going to come to fruition someday. We're also really happy to have another one of our jurors on the festival. His name is Ray Gilbertian, if you've ever seen like Back to the Future 1 and 2 or Return of the Jedi, one of my favorite movies, Galaxy Quest. If you guys have ever seen that, but see it tonight if you haven't. He is an expert in visual effects for miniature photography, and I got to meet him while I was out in the Bay Area, and he is happy to be a part of this. He also has some things in development that I can't speak about now that I hopefully will be involved with. But we have a good set of base jurors right now. In terms of our festival, we're growing this community internationally, but we're trying to start locally. So the Bay Area used to be a big stop motion area, but as real estate prices go up, the ability to shoot with sets and props has been diminished. So going to other areas where maybe it's not as expensive is where we are trying to lean. So we're honoring what had come from that area, and there's still a lot of great professionals in that area, but figuring out how we can facilitate how to expand our community, such as coming to Minnesota, or recently we, and I will be there in March, going to Guadalajara, where there's a stop motion contingent of a university called Tech there. Reaching out to Chicago, there's stop motion people there, and just seeing how can we plug in different people now that we have the technology and means to build this community. And when I'm saying building a community, I'm not necessarily saying just networking artists, but how do we make this community work for the community? So Most StopMo is very interested in facilitating programs that are going to help out the community. As an example, we are reaching out to Real Stories, which helps, I want to phrase this the best way, disenfranchised young women, I would say young girls to teens, and teaching them the filmmaking process. Reaching out to local businesses, showcasing what they do, and trying to build up the community where we are. So our first year for Most Stopmo is in Oakland, but talking about maybe this is a roving festival where we could actually show different communities and show off what they have to offer in terms of stop motion storytelling. And the one thing I always say is, even though it is a stop motion festival and a stop motion organization, like I said, stop motion is every art form that has ever existed. So if you're a storyboard artist, if you are a painter, any type of props and sets, if you're an animator, you know, animatics are key for stop motion. Figuring out timing, there's so much that can plug into what stop motion is. And even some of the people who are on our team started down a traditional path or started down a computer animation path and discovered their love for stop motion. I kind of discovered my love for stop motion when my set was built and I lit it and I was really excited and ready to shoot. My actor didn't show up. And I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna build my actor. It took much longer to do it because I was also teaching myself stop motion, but then I ended up making my first stop motion film. One of the people in our, Echo! So one of our main animators, Zaldi Dingle, who actually, if you saw that treadmill run, he animated that segment, and he worked at a very lucrative job at Yahoo before it fell apart, and a lot of younger people might not know Yahoo as well, but it was a big, big company. They made some bad moves. So he left that area of animating for Yahoo, and he was pursuing traditional and computer animation, but he discovered stop motion in an introductory animation course. And even though he ended up getting his secondary degree in computer animation, he is all about stop motion animation. So depending on where you go and what you do, you have a place in stop motion and with Most Stopmo. So if we are going to talk about anything else, I would basically say it's about the festival. Another thing I'd like to talk about is Fu Yang. She did some more animation. I'd like to show you We have a couple of ads that we put together that I'm happy about. I'm going to show you one of the ones that she worked on, if you don't mind. So this is a fun one. Again, I don't know if the sound is going to follow the animation or not, but I'll just play it with the sound on because it helps, and see how we go. That's a fun little thing. And then I'll show you just one more thing because I really like this one too. Fu has been very good at kind of taking some of our existing footage from our short and kind of curtailing it to create these little ads. As we go further down, we are going to have more stop motion animated ads, but this is a fun one that I animated along with another member of Most Stop Mo at the time. Her name was Elisa Schrader. She did the animation of this woman and I did the rest, but here is another ad that we're doing. All right. So why am I here today? Basically, trying to see if you guys are, if you are interested in learning more about our festival, definitely check out our website, moststopmo.com. Check out our submission page on Film Freeway. We do have tickets available for it, but the thing is we also have a price point if you want to donate a ticket. So there are students, I mean the Bay Area is a pretty expensive place to live right now. I think it is the most expensive place in the United States right now to live. I know what that's like. And there's a lot of students there and they're trying to figure out how to pay for a simple ticket, especially if they're going to a university system where they're paying upwards to almost $30,000 a year at some schools. If you're able to donate a ticket, that will get them into the festival. There is some great networking opportunities at that festival as well. We are, again, like I said, we are inviting industry professionals from all over the world. We've got submissions from Canada. We have lined up from Mexico, Spain, Chicago, Germany, that's right, that's another one. So that's basically the effort is just getting out there, building this community and seeing where it goes, because the whole point of any of this is to be able to not only survive, but to thrive. And if we could at least start leaning on each other and kind of saying we could shop this out and kind of figure out how to make these stories come to life, the next story could be yours. So like pitching an idea, making it simple, having a network of people, because I would say one of the most frustrating things I had ever had to deal with was killing the idea of an idea. I've had sometimes a thought in my mind of like, oh, this would be so great to do. And I'm like, no, go away, go away. I can't think of that because it's just too much. It's overwhelming. And then it's like, what are my resources? But if we could find people who have the skills and we could plug you in and say, would you want to work on this little piece? Even if it's like a proof of concept to get to the next step, that's where we would come in. And I mentioned in the beginning, this is kind of an educational system that runs in conjunction with any other type of learning opportunity, whether you are going to secondary education, post-secondary education, or not at all, and you just say, I want to learn on an intern level. And we say, okay, you could be a part of this production, and we can train you up to a certain amount of information based off of like your experience and whatnot. The goal is if you're able to be a part of something like this, and it is going to be a fraction of what you might have paid at any type of other educational system, but at the end of it, you've worked with a network of professionals, you have a piece that will be screened in festivals and an opportunity to move forward and possibly be placed on other projects, it would also be a thing that's like, I know that I'm not going to be paying off a school bill for the next 30 years of my life. And I think that's the biggest obstacle for artists now. It's like when you graduate with a degree. When I graduated from Columbia and I had the stop motion degree, it was just like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this now? So I just kind of shopped around and went into other story avenues, which was great. But it's like paying that down, figuring out where you go with it. If you don't have that obstacle, what I find is if you remove the financial burden of something and you can actually work on something that you love and not have to worry about that, it's going to be less of a hindrance, and it's going to help artists overall, because we all know that artists are not necessarily paid commensurate to their experience or commensurate to what they paid into what they've learned. So trying to find that middle ground that makes everybody happy, and then you have a tangible piece and a network of people that can help you proliferate, as long as you're not an asshole. I mean, that's the one thing. It's like Mike spoke to this earlier when we were at a speaking event earlier today, and he was just like, basically, I have a criteria. If we meet you and you seem like you are talented and you're not an asshole, you'll work on this project. And it's like, I've met very talented people who are very big assholes. I've met very motivated people who are nice, and I will take the nice, motivated person over the talented asshole every day. And I know the talented asshole because I feel like I've straddled between talent and asshole in my life as well. So I could kind of point that out. But like I said, if you are interested in knowing more about this, check out our website, check out our film page. Yeah, that's basically what I have to say.
You want to ask questions?
What's that?
Q&A at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to open it up to any type of questions that you may have. Yes?
Can you just give a quick overview? I am just hosting in the room. A quick overview of is the festival pretty much a showing of stuff, or do you have some ancillary sort of events to go with the festival?
So we are very much working with our resources to have kind of a weekend experience. So we are in Oakland. There's a thing called First Fridays, and it's a part of a bigger thing called Oakland Art Murmur. The gallery where I have my studio is a member of this, and what they'll do is through a portion of just outside of downtown Oakland, they shut down a stretch of street called Telegraph, and on that first Friday, prior to our Saturday screening, we are going to have the opening of the gallery show of Mo Stop Mo. We are going to have a networking opportunity. We're inviting industry professionals, from armaturists to cinematographers to sculptors, directors of some major films that are in production right now, veterans of the industry, and filmmakers who have work out in the last couple of years. So the criteria for the festival is, if you've produced a work in the last 2 years, you are available to be a part of this screening event. So this First Friday is a big party atmosphere. That Saturday leading up to our screening, we have slated a few live podcast situations. I've reached out to a couple of filmmakers right now. Brett Foxwell, who is wonderful armaturist, who created a short called Fabricated, is going to be a part of our festival. And if you have a chance to see Fabricated, it's amazing. It's meticulous. It's like one of those films that you watch, it's overwhelming, and he is able to present it in a very tight, beautifully told story. We've reached out to the creators of what is called Dark Star, and it's basically a kit bash Afrofuturistic take on Star Wars. So they'll take Star Wars toys, kit bash it, make it Afrocentric, and follow certain characters and have a whole story around that. They're local to the Bay Area as well. Another animator that we're happy to have as a part of this festival, his name is Reed Crawford. Wonderful writer, animator. He has a film called The Moon's Milk, beautifully animated and narrated by Tom Waits, which that alone for me is kind of like, I mean, outside of the beautiful animations, and you got Tom Waits, it's like, jeez, all right. So we've got some great people associated with the fest, that opportunities to kind of meet them. So it's a series of smaller, intimate gatherings where there will be interviews taking place, culminating in our fest, 2-hour festival, and 2 hours is all we could afford to get the theater. But afterwards, having an after party, trying to build other things around this is kind of the goal. This is the first fest that I'm running on my own, but I used to run festivals in Chicago. When I worked for the Second City, I ran a 7-day comedy festival. You get an improv session, and people would get like 7 days to create a short. So I understand the mechanisms of it. It's just kind of building up more of the events around it. But yeah, that's kind of what the fest is about. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
A lot of experience based on like your experience with your films. What kind of like rigs do you produce? You made your own rigs from scratch, or you bought them? And like, what kind of like, in terms of like eyepieces, have you got like your own glass eyes, or do you make them from scratch? I'm just kind of curious.
Did you say eye pieces?
Yeah, like the eyes. It's like a weird thing, but I really found that it can make a difference what material is.
Yeah, you know, what I've always found is the best material is the material you are most comfortable working with if you're trying to hit a deadline. And so in terms of rigging, we've used professional rigs, we've done 3D printed rigs, we've just kind of rigged it to get the shot. You know, even if it's just like taking a piece of black clay and just propping up that treadmill bounce. There's like black clay to get those bounces going. So it all depends on what you need, and basically you're only as good as your tools, so the more experience you have, the better. In terms of more of sophisticated fabricating like eyes, there is definitely a process of kind of, you know, casting the sphere and then painting, you know, doing an acrylic and then painting on the inside and then casting that. And that is a process that we didn't necessarily tackle in this. We did very simple things, like the eyes of our main characters for this film are actually small glass, like marquee lights, those little round marquee lights that are white because they had the nice gloss, and we would just kind of move a pupil around. You could do ones with like a hole where you could actually move a more articulated pupil. So it all depends. We have a wide range of experienced fabricators working, but for this project, we kind of kept it as simple and introductory as possible because it's almost like too much to digest for people who are beginning. But again, we have some great animators. Again, speaking to Zaldi, he's a very good 3D printer, and some of the stuffs and the sets and the props that you see, like the treadmill, Zaldi also made. But other things like the television, that was very handmade. So it all depends, you know. Just getting in there and making things from scratch is basically what materials do you have access to, what budget do you have, and how good can you hide your mistakes. And what I'll say to that is I'm a found object sculptor. So I have a bunch of junk, and sometimes I'll find something that is like, oh, what are we going to use for this? I was like, oh, I have something exactly for that. It's like I have this mental catalog of all the junk I have, and it's a lot. My partner, when we moved across the country, we had to move containers upon containers of junk. And she's just like, why are we hauling junk from Chicago to Oakland? And I don't have a great answer for that. Other than I'm a hoarder on wheels. But
You have what you need when you need it.
exactly, yeah. You know, and I learned it from my mom, because it'd be one of those things that, like, she's like, you're going to need this someday, and if you ever throw it out, it's going to be the first thing you need. And we've all been in that position. It's like, where is that almost dried out marker that I kept because it was a certain color or something? I don't know. So, yeah, that's my long answer to rigging.
No.
Huh? Yep.
For us Minnesota Mountain folks, is there a way that we'll be able to watch these films or take the show on the road at some point?
Yeah, you know, so like I said, this is the first festival that I'm running, but I do have hopes to have this as a little bit of a package that we can present somehow. Still navigating what that means in terms of format and venue, whether it is There's educational formats where you can do that, like a library thing where you could view the package of a festival. There could be, we put it on Amazon. We're trying to figure it out. Very much like my dream thing would be to have it akin to being like Death, Love, and Robots that was recently on Netflix, or even a little bit further back as The Animatrix. If we're able to have a block of animation that afterwards we were done and saying this is under Mo Stop Mo. But again, these are all kind of like things in development, and as we navigate the water, seeing what's possible. But the idea is persistence and motivation and seeing where we could go. Like I mentioned, if we are able to make a success out of this and we see that there is a need and a want for this to create this community, I wouldn't mind bringing it to Minnesota in a year, because already even out here I've met some really great stop motion people, whether it is sets and props or rigging, or I mean there's a lot of resourceful people here who have somewhat affordable space which is nice, and being able to hibernate for several months and just be in a space where you're working on your thing is a definite advantage. So open possibilities, and if anyone has any type of incentive or dangling carrot, they're like, we want you guys to be here, I'm always open to those conversations. Anything else? Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your questions.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you. Thank you to David, and thank you to all of you for showing up. We still have some pizza and soda, so as soon as we clear these chairs, we can all just kind of mingle and talk about what slice of pizza we have. We can talk about that off mic. Thanks for everyone coming out.